Anyone and everyone belongs. Find your why. Learn more at ymca.org for a better us.
That's okay. WWDB 860 AM Philadelphia and WPEN HD. Stand by. Philadelphia. The following programming is sponsored by Thomas Toole III. The views expressed do not necessarily reflect this station, its management, or Beasley Media Group.
Good afternoon, greater Philadelphia area. This is Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. Sarah Timon's on the way, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Main Line, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And we've got more news on mortgage rates today. They are holding, and we've even seen them tick down a little bit. They continue to hold at the lowest levels of the year. And there's also a Redfin report that came out that shows homes are selling at the slowest summer pace in a decade. And Warren Buffett placed a big wager on housing. We're going to break that down momentarily here. Locally, the last couple of weeks, there's been some buzz about what's happening to Lincoln Financial Field, maybe relocating the Eagles' home stadium, what that's going to mean for the marketplace. The Exton Square Mall plans, they had to get adjusted, and the SEPTA deal is still not done. And that's going to have a whole bunch of implications here that I don't think anyone's aware of. And we got one killer new listing coming to the market this week as well. So if you get some value out of this or you like what you hear, make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications, and if you want to schedule a call with our team, you can do that with the link in the comments, and we can talk to you about the opportunity in the marketplace right now, especially with this slower summer sales pace. So the past couple weeks after this jobs report that was called a game-changing jobs report by a lot of folks, we saw mortgage rates continue to drop. Last week, just about a week ago, they hit their lowest level of the year, and they've been hovering in that 6.57, 6.58% range, which is a welcome sign for a lot of consumers. And if you look at just back to August 1st, they were higher, but they've stayed pretty stable here. And what is the result of that now is we saw that inflation came in at 3.1% year over year last week. We saw that there's a lot of pressure now on the Federal Reserve to lower the federal funds rate, and we'll see what happens at the end of August here when Jerome Powell makes his comments. But more than anything else, we are seeing opportunity for buyers and sellers, especially the sellers that have a home they want to go buy or have a home they need to buy, right? If you look at some of the local data here, this is for the week ending last week on the 17th, we saw showings jump up 8.6% compared to the previous year. It's about flat year where we were last week. Purchase contracts up 4.6% in the week ending August 17th. And what we're also seeing is inventory is continuing to grow. It's up 22.6%. And this is for the entire Bright MLS. So that covers more of a regional area, DC, Southern Jersey, Delaware. If you look at what's happening locally, super local in the Philly metro area, showings are up 3.9%, meaning there's more buyers out there. Purchase contracts are up 4.7% compared to a year ago, and active listings are up 12.9%. So there's opportunity there. With showings increasing, there's enough active listings, and we're seeing that 9.3% of all the active listings have had a price decrease in the greater Philadelphia area. So what this tells me with these lower rates, while people are getting ready for back to school, they're getting ready for their last kind of summer vacation here on Labor Day weekend, there's going to be some opportunity to go look and find a home that you want. And it's really, really critical to get the word out to people, because if we see that slow march towards 6% with the expected Federal Reserve rate cut in the month of September, and maybe even a little bit of an economic slowdown, that could spur the housing market. This comes from Housing Wire, where This article just dropped today, where housing market dynamics have grown more favorable for buyers and sellers in August, and it's possible that the fall of 2025 could even see better conditions if mortgage rates get to 6%. And there's a lot of data from home builders and other analysts that show that's kind of the sweet spot there that would bring a lot of folks back to the market. We've seen a steady decline in rates, according to the Housing Wire Mortgage Rate Center. We know that even locally, and I think it's really important to understand what these other programs that are out there, if you're thinking about buying a home, are. Just to give you some perspective, these are rate quotes from Friday, right? So this is, or excuse me, today, not Friday. Conventional, 6.74%. That's a 30-year fixed up to $806,500. FHA loans, so as little as 3.5% down with a loan limit of $594,000, 6.125%. That's an incredible number. Jumbo loans between 806 up to 2 million, 6.25%. So that's good news for folks in the luxury segment of the market. And PHFA, first-time buyers, so conventional FHA, VA, even USDA. Now, there's some income and purchase limits, and that's coming in at 5.875% from a trusted local lender who has helped a lot of our clients. These are real-time rate quotes. So that, to me, spells opportunity. That, to me, spells the people that have been waiting may need to stop waiting, because if rates come down even more, there's going to be more folks that jump into the market. So with these local trends happening here where inventory's up, showings are starting to increase, you're seeing that number pick up as well. This is something you really want to keep your eye on here if you're a consumer. Now, this is local, and you've got to be careful watching the national news, because I just had this conversation with a client today, a potential client, or they said, "Hey, it looks like the housing market's softening." They live in one of the suburban towns in a great townhome community. Prices are hovering in the 800 to 900 range. It's in Chester County, and I had to politely correct them and say, "Well, you may be looking at the national trends. Locally, we're not seeing prices go down." Now, according to this Redfin report, the typical home for sale spends 43 days on market in 2025. That's up from 35 days a year ago. But when you look at the local numbers, right, and you look at median time to contract, it's 23 days in the greater Philadelphia area. That's a big difference. You're talking about almost half at that number. So it shows the strength of the local market. Redfin, the report goes on to say that homes are taking longer to sell because demand is shrinking due to high home buying costs and economic uncertainty. Well, if rates continue to come down, that might defer those costs when it comes to high home buying costs. They might be a little less, right? And with homes lingering on the market, supply has been building up, which has also been happening in our marketplace here, as you can see by the jump in inventory. And that is giving buyers more options and less urgency. Now, I don't buy the less urgency, because I am clear the people that have urgency are the ones that have a reason to move. So if you look at the active listings for homes for sale in July, they sat near the highest level in 5 years, but they fell nationally 1.1% from June. So we're still seeing highs over the last 5 years for the month of July. That's very clear that there is more options out there. There are more options out there, than we've seen in the past. So there's a lot of things happening in the market here that makes it a little less competitive. And being less competitive may be exactly what the market needs to bring some people off the fence. And when you look at these numbers here, and this comes from the Redfin senior economist, Assad Khan, he says, supply is starting to fall because prospective sellers are choosing not to list after seeing their neighbor's home linger on the market or sell for below the asking price. And that quote, it's inaccurate. It's not right when you look at the local data. He's talking nationally, and this is the difference between national and local data, because if you look at supply in the greater Philadelphia area, supply is up real time. This is the past week ending August 17th, 12.9%. So what this demonstrates is you've got to understand the local information about the market, because if you're not doing that, then you're not giving your clients, or consumers aren't getting the right information in the first place. So this Redfin report is something you really got to keep your eye on. And that's something that's going to be pretty critical because these headlines are going to be out there. And if you look at some of these heat maps that exist, and these heat maps show here's what's happening with inventory, here's what's happening with price cuts. The Northeast is different than everywhere else in the country right now. And obviously, where we live, the greater Philadelphia area is part of the Northeast. So that's something that's super, super, super important to really understand, that these national trends are something you've got to be careful of following if you're looking at a decision in a local market. And that doesn't just go for our market here, it goes for any market. How was traffic today? Another great day on the on the Schuylkill Expressway, Sarah.
You know it.
It's always fun. I was coming from Westchester or like Exton, so I had to take the Schuylkill the whole way, which was a blast. So we're talking about some of these national versus local market trends, Sarah, and Redfin came out with this report about the slowest summer pace in a decade. And then they talked about how supply is not growing, but we've seen it grow here, obviously, in the local market. And Inman kind of broke down this article as well. So tell me what you think about this once I break it down here, that we saw pending sales drop 1.1% from June to July to their lowest seasonally adjusted rate since November nationally. But purchase contracts are up 4.7% compared to the same time last year. So are you seeing more strength in the market now than maybe you expected, especially heading into the fall here and wrapping up the summer? I know our schedule's a little different than the rest of the country as well.
Yeah, no, it's been interesting. I was just in a competitive offer situation over the weekend that we, unfortunately, my client did not end up getting the house. And it was a multiple offer situation. And then, yes, I think that certain homes are still, going quickly. Others, there's been a little bit more opportunity. I know I just had a conversation this morning with a seller of mine who had seen some articles saying similar things. And I had asked if it was, are these like national articles or are these local articles? And he had said national. And I had said, we have to kind of bring it back to, what matters here for us is like local.
Well, and that's a big problem, right? I had the same conversation with a prospective client today, but they said, hey, prices are going down. I'm like, I don't know where you're seeing that, but I shared that, hey, nationally, yes, in some places you are seeing some softening. Locally, here's what's going on. And, it's always tough to combat the national headlines versus the local market. And that's where consumers really need to understand this, because even though you might say it's a slower summer sales pace than we've seen in decades, I think that's very clear. There's going to be a lot less homes that sell this year. That doesn't mean the market's going in the wrong direction. So now they did show in this Redfin article that home price growth is accelerating because they're saying sellers are pulling back, which again, we're seeing inventory grow. So I can't totally agree with this, but it's lower than other parts of the country. The median sale price rose 1.4% year over year, the highest July level on record to $443,867. By comparison, prices rose 0.9% year over year in June and 0.7% year over year in May. Do you see steeper price increases happening right now? You said you had a multiple offer situation. That's usually when you see those big jumps in numbers happen.
Yeah, I think it depends on the house, and it depends on like the strategy that the sellers kind of went with. I know the one that we did not end up, getting it. I know it went over the list price. I know we offered over the list price. It was like a higher price point home. We didn't go like crazy over, but like, terms are always going to factor into this as well. So we had some things in there that we would have needed to compensate more than what we did on the price to get it.
Okay. And I think terms do have value, like a waived home inspection or a lack of an appraisal, especially at some of these edgy numbers. I can end up saving a lot of money in a lot of cases for a home seller.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're seeing that our market continues to perform differently than the rest of the country. That's really clear. Now, when it comes to rates, I mean, the Federal Reserve, they do have their big Jackson Hole press conference coming up. And I think everyone's a little nervous Jerome Powell may say something here. And this is happening the end of the week. So, I mean, it's on it's the 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. And I think a lot of people are worried Jerome Powell's going to come out and say something that might change the course of where rates are going, because in the past he's used Jackson Hole to buoy jobs and battle inflation. Now he's kind of caught between both with the CPI numbers coming in a little higher. Jobs report was obviously not great at all. What do you think he's going to say at this press conference here?
I have no idea. But are we wait? So
neither do I, by the way. And this is just all speculation.
So we're thinking, because this, like, the Fed meeting is in September. This is like
this is their economic symposium they have in Jackson. It's their big retreat.
And you think there's something that he could say there that could then impact what they do in September?
I mean, it happened last year where they kind of reversed course. And that was, again, after another big jobs revision where they revised the numbers dramatically over the summer. So I'm just wondering if it's going to happen again, or because right now he's kind of, inflation's up, jobs are down. Before it was the other way around, and he's kind of caught in between this rock and a hard place here. I'm just curious if he's just going to say a whole bunch of nothing, and he may seriously disappoint.
Yeah, I mean, I honestly have no idea what he'll come out and say. But I think regardless of what he says, I think that there likely will be a rate cut for September.
I agree with you there. I don't think there's any, like, Wall Street's already pricing this into a lot of things.
Right,
You've seen the market
already
move.
been baked in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So let's look at what he's done in the past. So, and because I'm so curious how this is going to go, because we know the market is going to react sooner than the Fed's going to act. So you're right. Wall Street does expect the Federal Reserve to cut rates. Now he's got this talk on Friday, and it's very highly anticipated. Previously, it's been an opportunity for policymakers, not just him, to tease forthcoming rate moves. And, last year he did signal like a pivot to cuts. I think he's probably going to signal the same thing again, but it's not that unexpected. This last year it was a little bit more unexpected, I believe. And the hold with all these like tariff ripple concerns that were out there, I think it's going to be over. And I think they're putting it at like a 90% chance or something that they're going to cut rates at the next meeting it's 84.9% as of today that they're going to make a 25 basis point decrease in rates.
So how much factors in here? Like, I mean, obviously the market, and if it's already like baked into some of the rates and stuff, like they've like considered it, they feel good about that's what's going to happen. So they've already kind of like, done some adjustments on their end. Does that factor into his decision? Like, well, the market's already moved this way, so now I like have to do the cut, or no?
That's a great question. So, the market is pricing things like the 10-year Treasury yield, and obviously that affects mortgage rates. All Jerome Powell cares about is the dual mandate of jobs and inflation. So in order for them to deal with inflation, I think they're going to have to make some rate cuts. And, if you look at like the debate between economists right now, it's deteriorating jobs are due to weak demand for workers or weak supply. If the problem's supply, then rate cuts could worsen inflation. I don't think it's a weak supply of workers. I think it's weak demand for quality workers. That's just my point of view. We're trying to hire a few positions right now, and the tariff talk is feeding kind of unevenly through the economy. Like, it's affecting some sectors more than most. So I don't know that you can tease out a one-off tariff effect from longer lasting inflationary pressures, because they're still there. And if inflation's going back up, I mean, the rates may need to come down to combat that a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
So this is interesting. They always talk about like hawks or like doves. Like hawk is like very, negative, and then doves are like very positive when it comes to economic conditions.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the, I thought this was really funny. They said that Jerome Powell is likely to be an owl. So apparently we're talking about birds now, where he's going to wait and watch than a hawk or a dove. Meaning he'll say that a rate cut's possible, but the Fed's decisions are data dependent. That's probably one of the best analyses I've seen, because I don't think he's going to commit to anything at these talks.
Oh my God. Bird talk.
If Jerome Powell was a bird, what kind of bird would he be, right? I mean, that's the kind of, I thought that's
A
pretty
blue-footed
interesting.
booby. No, I don't know. A grouse.
A grouse.
What other birds do I know?
I don't know. We saw a heron over the weekend. It flew into our deck, so that was pretty exciting. So,
Nice.
all right. So it sounds like we're on the same page here. So the other piece of housing news I wanted to hit on is that Warren Buffett, he made a big wager on housing this week when it comes to new home builders. And what we've seen kind of happen here, and let me pull up the information. This comes from Lance Lambert over at Resi Club, which I think is one of the best sites out there. And when it comes to housing. And so back in August of 2023, Warren Buffett disclosed that in Q2 of 2023, his company made a bet on home builders and bought almost 6 million shares of D.R. Horton and 152,000 shares of Lennar and 11,000 shares of NVR. A few months later, in 2024, they sold off the D.R. Horton shares. And the abrupt buy and sell raised some eyebrows for people. Then later in 2024, home builder stocks suffered a pullback, so it was probably a good move. And apparently Buffett, he's stepping down as the CEO of Berkshire Hathaway at the end of 2025 and thinks that home builders have neared an inflection point, or at least their stocks have, because on Thursday of last week, Berkshire Hathaway disclosed that during Q2 of 2025, so ending June 30th, the company made a bet on home builders purchasing 1.485 million shares of D.R. Horton, around $191.5 million worth, and increased its Lennar holdings to around $800 million, which tells me he's probably bullish on real estate and building. Now, our market's a little different when it comes to new construction. Do you think this is a smart bet by Berkshire Hathaway here? I mean, that's a lot of chips to be pushing in on home builders right now.
And this would be, so they have share, and these are all national companies.
Yeah. So these are big builders. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like they probably know what they're doing. Would be my guess.
I would agree that Warren Buffett does know what he's doing.
Yeah.
I look at this and I'm seeing that, I think it coincides with these builder stocks have jumped, but also there's such demand for housing right now and affordable housing and new housing. And I mean, if you look at our market, builders sometimes are offering the best incentives that are out there when it comes to some lower rates or a lot of incentives and options thrown in. And if you looked at the commentary coming from these giant publicly traded home building, is that the earnings season was underplaying the softening and softness in residential construction. And in addition to the shares Buffett acquired last quarter, they also own Clayton Homes. I mean, it just tells me, I think he's really optimistic on where the market's headed over the next couple of years. I mean, we talked about how 2026 could be a much more profitable year for agents and more home selling. I think this really underscores it more than anything else.
Well, and if it's shares for national companies, like even if it doesn't translate to a ton of new construction here locally, like that could still be a smart move for him to have done if it's, if they're building other places.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I think what we have to look at is not just where we are, because Philadelphia specifically was identified as one of the markets where home builders are struggling to find lots. Although Austin, Atlanta, and Dallas are considered appropriately supplied. LA was another place where home builders were struggling to find lots. And that's contributed to the slower pace of construction. So I think our market, you got to kind of take it out of it. They have this great chart they did where you can see like the markets, if you want to take a look here, that have enough supply. And really, there's only like 5 of them. It's Austin, Atlanta, Dallas, Denver, San Antonio. So, emerging markets versus like Philadelphia is like right at the bottom behind like you only have San Diego, Miami, Baltimore, LA, Washington, DC below. And I mean, they're seeing negative changes for the most part year over year because there's just nowhere to build. I mean, you have to go out like to Lancaster to really find a lot of land, or these locations are a lot different. So it does show there's demand.
Right by my house, there was a property that had
your old house. Not your current house, right?
No, my current house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there's a property.
So along the main line, just to be clear.
Yeah, there's a property that went on the market massive home on 10 acres and needed a lot of work, was on the market for a while, ended up getting sold, I guess 2 like lots basically got subdivided off, and homes are currently under construction on them now. Then someone purchased the home with probably the remaining 8 acres, and we just got a note in the mail last week that there is stuff in for the township to try to do I mean, this isn't huge, but like 6 home development. There's pushback.
There's definitely going to be. Have you ever been to a local zoning meeting?
No, and I honestly don't plan on attending, but
I know
neighbors are, and then we'll like do what we need, like, and there's been a lot of chatter in my neighborhood about it, for, where the road is going to be, what that's going to do for, just like traffic and whatnot. And it's like, so, and that's for a 6 home development, So I think, yeah, like anywhere, I think people like the idea of new construction for the most part, but nobody wants it right by them.
Well, and what you're talking about is so typical in the Philadelphia suburbs, where there's not these big developments available. And if they are, you see big national home builders like an NV Homes, a Lennar, a DR Horton, Toll Brothers. Some of these companies we talked about, they're buying them, right? Like you look at Steel Point in Phoenixville. Now that lot back there, it's kind of like by the train tracks. Like it's not great. You see stuff along like Westchester Pike by our office got developed, obviously. There's a few there. But in mainline neighborhoods or some of these other places where you want to build single family homes, 6 homes is a lot. That's actually a good number. And you're probably not going to see more than that because the areas are so built up.
Well, and then where I think there's going to be able to be some pushback is, so there's like regulations for cutting down trees, and the proposal is to cut down more trees than what I guess you're like supposed to be able to. And then it brings up like stormwater management. So it seems as though the best case scenario would be that it may go from like 6 to 5. But, obviously the investor who purchased all of this and is, going to be doing the project, they've looked into, it's not like they just bought it and then they were like, and we're going to hope it works, like I'm sure they have like strategies in place here that like, even if things get delayed, I'm sure they're pretty confident they'll be able to get some of this done.
Well, and the stormwater management's a big deal in a lot of these places, because what you don't want to have happen is all of a sudden all this water is getting dumped in your yard, and that's what people are worried about.
And there is a very nice neighborhood behind where this is that, and then it's like a steep slope. So like there is reason for concern, I would say, for like, how they're gonna manage that and how they're gonna make that work.
And my experience with these zoning meetings, so years ago they were building One Ardmore Place, all the new stuff that around the Ardmore train station. And I also did not go to the meeting. I don't recommend going to those things unless you have like a reason to. And the meeting went on till 3 a.m. of people disputing the plan that was already approved, by the way. And a lot of people don't like change. One of the stories we're going to talk about here, we're trying to get the developer on for the Exton Mall. He told us how he had to redo his plans. They just had to go to a hearing last night. It's in the article we're going to unpack in the next section of the show here. So these zoning planning meetings, I mean, I'm optimistic with what Warren Buffett's doing. I think it does spell that there's going to be a big 2026, but don't expect new construction to be the solution here in the greater Philadelphia area.
Right. I mean, they do make it where I know, like for, it's public information that we're like, just for the neighborhood that's being discussed near me, that people can go and like see plans and see things, but you have to go to the office. Like nothing is like posted on, like they don't want to make it that like, which makes sense, because if you can just like look it up, then you're probably going to have a lot of those meetings that go till 3 a.m. versus like if you make somebody like physically go somewhere and like maybe schedule an appointment and like whatever to get in there and like review everything, your numbers of people with eyes on it is going to dramatically go down.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, while this is exciting, I think for Warren Buffett, the fact that Philadelphia was named as one of the hardest places to find lots really demonstrate, and like a 6-unit development, people are going to be chomping at the bit to get in there. I'd imagine these are going to be like $1.5 million, $2 million homes is going to be my guess. They're new, along the main line. Most of the home, like a 1940s home, is considered new. So this is really demonstrating that even though Redfin says we're in a summer slowdown, we're seeing a lot of demand here in the greater Philadelphia area, and that's the good news for the housing market here. So why don't we take a quick break? We'll kind of come back. We're going to talk about some of these local stories here, the future of Lincoln Financial Field, more green space at the Exton Square Mall, so exactly what we talked about. And the SEPTA deal, like this is happening in a few days. It doesn't look good for SEPTA, so we're going to unpack all that next on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
Local mortgage service and great rates on your money.
Where'd you
Look no
stop?
further than Mortgage America.
What exit did I even get off at? I don't remember.
There's nobody like Bill right here.
Right, and I was just like, oh my God. And like, I literally, the last thing I did before I like left was pay. And I'm just like, what
There's
the
the home
hell?
stretch here, Sarah. I know how this goes.
Financing, we have programs for you. We also have closing cost
Too funny.
assistance programs and access to subsidized
It actually, my
interest rates.
ETA
Your
was,
vehicle is free.
it got
No
better
cost
as
to
I
you.
was coming.
There was a
That
little bit
first
of
time,
traffic, 'cause I did
I was like,
stopping that shit, and then like it went on and off. And
Give us a call at 610-439-8000. We always have a person
Yeah, so
available
this
to take your
is-
call with around-the-clock
All right, so this is
human
me.
service.
This is Old Eagle
Purchase your
School.
home with the
This is the
personalized
driveway
local
that goes
service you
into
find
this
in the
house.
oh wow,
That's like this like massive
The Tom
mansion.
Toole Sales Group is the number one RE/MAX
This is
team in
all of the land that went along with it. So they subdivided
you can see
off.
that's a big
Yeah, there's already, they're almost done with one here and one here. But then the guy that bought this, he's gonna fix it up and live there. But then he's gonna try and develop all of this into like a neighborhood.
that's how they get developed here.
And they're gonna try and have the exit be on Harwick here, which is giving like this guy here is giving a lot of pushback. He's like, I'm gonna have lights shining in my, like, you know what I mean? And
That
like
does suck.
packages and like da 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 da. So like we're like with us having that like long driveway and being set back, like at least we won't be like right there in the mix of it. But like
You're like here, right? This is your,
yeah, this is me here. So and we just have like long driveway going back here. But yeah, so they're gonna try and develop all of this into like a neighborhood. And like the neighbors are not happy.
Sell your home for more, and remember.
I don't know. I don't know if like, but also what's great, like so Old Eagle School is already like a crazy busy road.
yeah, I
They
know,
probably
yeah.
have to put in like a
The high
traffic
school
light.
off in Demons. I mean, it was like
Yeah.
I was always driving back there.
Yeah. This house here, it's almost done that they're building. And it's a different builder that bought, that subdivided off these two lots.
Mhm.
I think it's listed at, I think it's listed like over 2.
Visit the Sutera team at Cross Country Mortgage. We are your local Pennsylvania
But-
lending experts with loans that fit
Yeah,
your
like
any
none of the
unique
neighbors
home buying
are.
situation.
We got
Like,
something
they
about a
all, they all
sign.
want to fight.
No, I'm sure.
Everybody wants to fight
Dude,
back.
I don't think they're gonna get it approved.
Get a free pre-approval.
They're gonna have to make changes to the plans.
Yeah.
Search for us.
Like they're really
There's,
tough
I
about
guess,
that.
somebody that lives here on Harwick is a like attorney that does something. So like I guess he's gonna go to like the meetings and stuff.
Welcome back to Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM. I'm Tom Toole. She's Sarah Timon, and we both work at the Tom Toole Sales Group at RE/MAX Mainline, the number one RE/MAX team in Pennsylvania since 2018. And there's a lot of local development news right now, in addition to what's happening in Sarah's neighborhood. We're not going to talk about that. I don't have all the details. The future of Lincoln Financial Field. A lot of red flags here. I think some Eagles fans are worried. We've got the SEPTA pending service cuts coming up here. And there's also more green space being added to the Exton Square Mall plans. So if you get some value out of this, or you like what you hear, or you make sure to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team, you can do that with the link in the comments to understand how all these things might impact you. So I want to talk about the Lincoln Financial Field stuff first. So the Philadelphia Eagles have been there for 22 years. Doesn't seem that long. Like, that doesn't seem like a long time for a stadium. And there was a survey that went out to season ticket holders to gather options on possible upgrades and to gauge interest in constructing a new stadium. So upgrading the current stadium or building a new stadium. Now, it probably wouldn't be done for at least 8, 9, 10 years. So when you think about it, it might make sense they're doing this now. And before last year's Super Bowl, where the Eagles won, go Birds, Eagles owner Jeff Lurie discussed the potential for a new domed stadium for the team because he wants to host major events like a Super Bowl in Philadelphia or the NCAA Final Four, where they often have those at, like, they'll have them in Indianapolis or San Antonio, where there's a huge dome there. And um, what the Frank Gemeni, the Eagles COO, said in an interview, most of Philadelphia knows our lease at the city-owned Lincoln Financial Field runs through 2032. That's both far in some ways and not so far in others. Right now, we're just starting to gather information. Everything's on the table. So, while obviously they're not moving anytime soon, the survey questions were pretty interesting, and there was some really good reporting done on this. I want to get your take. So the survey questions, they had like focus groups come in, and they asked questions like, specify the maximum amount of time you'd be willing to travel one way to attend an Eagles home game at a new stadium. It also asked fans how they currently travel to the existing games. And this went out and went to all the season ticket holders. Obviously, they're trying to gauge this here, and it's pretty interesting. So there's some theories here about where this is going to move. Potentially the Northeast. Maybe they would build something down in the sports complex now, but the Eagles have not really come out and said anything after the Flyers and the Sixers agreed to that deal for the new shared arena, and then the Phillies kind of back things up, saying, hey, they want to make sure that becomes like a destination. So what do you think about all this here?
Yeah, I mean, it would kind of be a shame to move it when I kind of like that all of the state, like that there is like just like a sports center for Philly, like, and if the Eagles were to go somewhere else, like, I don't know. I know they play it, like, there's some overlap, but like, I kind of like that all the stadiums are in one place. So I feel like that would be kind of like, and they've like planned things around that. So to then like relocate, which I mean, I'm sure, like, obviously if you're leasing something, like, it's always an option that when the lease, like, there's no guarantee you're going to stay. But yeah, so would it be, so they need to have a dome to be able to like host some of these events because people want a dome.
Yeah, I mean, for the Super Bowl, you have to have the average temperature has to be above 50 degrees. And they did this after they had that New York Super Bowl where it like rained. I don't know if you remember this. 50 degrees has to be the average temperature during that time, which obviously is not the case in February in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And an NCAA Final Four, I mean, they're not playing that outside. So, sure. I mean, that would be that's kind of the reason behind it. So,
and could they reasonably add a dome to the state? Like, I mean, I'm sure they.
I don't think it's possible. Is right, or it would be just as expensive, if anything else.
Gotcha. Well, then that makes it more difficult. Because if they could just add a dome one to it.
Well, and I think it's what's interesting is, he was Jeff Lurie was asked in March whether they were going to join Comcast Spectacor and the Phillies in the sports complex redevelopment plan, which now has the Sixers. And they say, hey, we talk closely. It's something we monitor. We're not part of that, but it's something we monitor closely. Sounds like he's like avoiding the question. And
he's being an owl.
Yeah, well, I get that. He's asking who, right? That's too funny. I do like the idea of having everything down there. I think if you were going to have like a downtown arena, football's not the sport for that because there's so many people that come in. I'd rather see that for like baseball or basketball, which obviously isn't happening. And you figure, I mean, the Eagles, all the revenue that comes in from the Super Bowl, I mean, I can see why they'd want that. It also kind of getting in and out of the sports complex is a real pain in the butt for these games. Like, I mean, I went to an Eagles game with my daughter this year, and we left like early enough, but it wasn't early enough to get out in a quick way. It was a 4:00 Sunday game. It was freezing, and we were in the parking lot for like an hour and 20 minutes just trying to get out of there.
Annoying.
And like we didn't even move. I mean, and so I think that's the traffic in and out of there is a real problem. And we're going to talk about the SEPTA stuff here next, because these SEPTA cuts are going to make it even worse going to these games.
Right.
So I think they're, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting here because.
Do many large cities have a sports complex right in the downtown?
So
I know, like Toronto for like the Blue Jays, I know they have like their stadium thing. What do you call it? Do you call it a stadium?
Baseball, but yeah, it's a stadium. Yeah, I think that's fine. You went to Clemson. Come on, you don't know what this stuff is called?
But I didn't know for like different sport if
Yeah.
they call them different things. But I'm trying to think like what other cities would like if that's what people prefer. Not that we would be able to do it, but
so for basketball teams, Philadelphia is one of 2 basketball cities that do not have a downtown arena. The other is Chicago. So that's why I think that makes a lot more sense. Baseball is kind of hit or miss. It seems like the Atlanta. So Atlanta had a downtown stadium for the Braves, and they moved it out to the suburbs. And now it's like this like kind of destination where there's like shopping and places to eat and all this stuff. I think that's kind of what they're going for down there. The in and out with traffic is going to be brutal. I don't see how you improve the traffic.
Is Atlanta's football stadium also?
They're downtown, I believe.
Downtown. Okay,
so it's separate. And I mean, not a lot of places have everything like in one spot.
Right.
Like it's so. I mean, it's not.
Well, it takes up a ton of space.
Well, yeah, and it's like I mean, you go down there and it's like I think it's cool because we're used to going there.
Yeah.
But you go to other places, like there's a lot more around there. Like you go to some of these baseball parks. You go to Wrigley Field or Fenway Park or Camden Yards. They're all right downtown, so it's a little more fun. And tailgating's not quite the same for football as it is for other sports. So that's really the issue. And maybe the Eagles are looking at. I think they just want to own their own stadium. I think that's really what it comes down to.
Okay.
And there's rumors it might go up like to the northeast, like off the boulevard and all that. And I mean, anytime I drive up there, I get so stressed out. Yeah, well, there's 6 lanes. You got to cross over all the time. So I think the Eagles are keeping their options open right now, but they're probably looking at the bigger picture. But then, are people really going to go travel there? Is the other because you think right now? I mean, South Philly's not the best location, but all of a sudden that's more. I mean, where you and I live, like that's adding on a lot of time to get to the stadiums.
I mean, it might be interesting to see what that does to like season ticket holders. Now, if you're a season ticket holder, you're a pretty big fan, right?
I don't think it's going to do anything because the waiting list is so long.
Right. So, for people that are just going to like 1 or 2 games a year, I feel like they would travel for it.
I think so too.
It's like a special thing, and if it tacks 20 more minutes onto your drive or whatever, I think people would do it.
I tend to agree.
And they might grumble, but they'll do it.
Well, some of these people they're getting down there like way early. Like that's a whole thing. Now, what's interesting, this happened on August the 8th. So this was when they had that Eagles game down there. This was just a couple weeks ago. There was gridlock at the South Philly Sports Complex. Shocking. It was the Thursday night game where the Eagles played the Bengals. And there was a Nate Bargatze comedy show at the Wells Fargo Center. And they closed off highway exits and resulted in some people sitting in their cars for 3 hours trying to get into the lots.
Oh my God, I run out of gas. I feel like
maybe, I don't know. And they, this is these are some real life people that explain this stuff here. They left this guy left his house at 5:30 p.m. in Delaware County. It takes about 30 minutes to get to the Wells Fargo Center, which is right depending on where you're coming from. The show was at 7, but the Broad Street exit off 95 was closed by the police. They were rerouted, saying we would get to the lot at 8 p.m. and they left the show. They couldn't even go to the show there. I mean, this is the problem down there. So I think it's that's why the Sixers arena downtown, at least I thought, was a great idea because you can take public transportation down there unless SEPTA cuts all the trains, which is a whole nother thing. But and there was a Remax Phillies game a couple weeks ago. I don't think you went, and my cousin was going to go. He's coming from Devon. And I was going to meet up with him, take my son, right? They're buddies. And he goes, traffic was so bad, I just turned around. He didn't even go to the game.
Yeah.
So I think this is going to be the problem down there. Now, with Eagles games, it's a lot different because there's only 8 of them a year that are or 9, depending on the schedule. I think it's for Phillies and everything else is where it's a problem. So
yeah, I mean, I went to the Phillies game earlier in the summer with TA, and it was.
I left early, so I didn't get stuck.
We got stuck.
I bet you did. I mean, it was brutal. So I mean, it's that's kind of the whole point. So I think the Eagles are probably looking at revenue. You own the stadium, you get a Final Four that comes in, you get a Super Bowl, you have all these other big events. They're going to make more money. I think that's all this really is. I wouldn't be surprised if they have a new stadium down there where they put in like the old Jetro lot, like the big tailgating lot where everyone parks now.
Yeah.
TBD.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. So, all right, next thing we want to talk about here. Let's talk about these SEPTA cuts because I know we're trying to get in the interest of time. So the SEPTA cuts. This is nuts. I can't believe there has not been a resolution. So last week we talked about it here. Lawmakers were trying to reach a deal to stop SEPTA's death spiral. That's what it's being called right now. And they failed to secure funding for SEPTA before the transit agency moves forward with the plan to implement drastic service cuts and fare hikes. There was a bill that got passed last week, and then the Senate, that was passed in the House. The Senate passed a Republican-supported funding plan. It was a Democrat-backed transit funding bill on Monday. Republican one on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the House committee voted against the Republican-backed bill. Shocking. And SEPTA General Manager Scott Sauer and PennDOT Secretary Mike Carroll all spoke out against it and taking issue with the portion of the plan that called for using the Straight Transit Fund to cover the $213 million budget deficit. And since there wasn't a deal reached, SEPTA's beginning, and this was last week, so they're in process of the 10-day prep period for 20% across the board service cuts. Fares are going to go up by 21.5% on September 1st for the 800,000 daily riders. And SEPTA also warned under the plan they would be unable to provide enhanced service for major tourist events like the World Cup or events surrounding the 250th birthday of the nation. They don't have the extra trains for baseball games and football games. You normally have like 9 or 10 trains. It's going to cut down to like 3 or 4. And did you ever take when you lived in Philly, did you ever take like the Broad Street? And like I would always take that, and there was plenty of trains. Well, that's going to be gone now. So it looks like these cuts are happening. I can't believe that it's gotten to this point in as large of a city as Philadelphia is that we are cutting public transportation because there's people that rely on this for work and to go see their families and just for day-to-day stuff. Forget the sports and all that. They're going to have 88 routes reduced, 32 routes eliminated, and 16 routes shortened. What do you think about all this, Sarah?
It's going to be a mess.
It is going to be a mess.
And trying to for people trying to figure out what that does for their commute, for work or whatnot. And then if there's way less, are they going to have to leave an hour before they normally would to be able to get, if service is being cut, and then to be able to allow, and if you had to there's multiple pieces of public transportation that you have to get to your, office. That stinks.
I mean, I'm wondering what's going to happen with some folks' jobs. Are they going to be able to keep their jobs? What if they can't get there? What if they don't have reliable transportation? That's something we ask everyone we interview. And if you don't have reliable transportation, you talk about the jobs market. I think this could really negatively affect a lot of people, especially in the city of Philadelphia.
Well, and you expect it to be there in a city this size. And to be fair, I feel our subway systems and some of our stuff isn't great to begin with.
I agree with that.
Just with limited options of where things are at, but you expect to be able to train in. You expect to be able to Philly's not a tiny city. We're a big city. So it's I feel really hurting the city as a whole to not have that. I
totally agree with you. And there's people they gotta go, they take these things to go to the doctor. Yeah. This isn't it's not even about, it's about health and well-being. And I think that's the biggest problem here. So, my biggest concern is that it's just going to affect a lot of people really negatively in a whole bunch of different ways. So it's not a good thing. That's for sure. And I just can't believe it got to this point. And of course, you got the partisan back bills. They can't agree on anything. And this is where politics just fails miserably in Harrisburg because this, people move to the city so they don't have to drive. Now you got
right.
And
it's already it's already congested and stuff down there. Then if and it's not going to be an option for everybody to go get a vehicle. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge expense. But it's just going to make it worse.
Yeah, not good. I'm hoping there's some midnight deal here, but I thought that would happen by now.
Yeah.
I don't know. All right, last piece of news here, and we're working on getting the developer for the Exon Square Mall on the show. He's very busy with
developing.
Well, he's got hearings and stuff he has to go to, so I can appreciate where he's coming from. I drove by there today, and I worked at the Exon Square Mall when I was a kid, so it's very interesting. It's kind of weird. So Peter Abrams, him and his development team, they received a message. They're developing the Exton Square Mall. He actually walked Sarah and I through all this, which I thought was pretty cool. What did you think of the plan before we get into some of the changes there?
I thought it was very well thought out. I think he was taking a lot of pieces from different places that already exist around here, but then kind of like implementing his own stuff into it. Yeah, I thought it seemed like very, very well put together.
I was pretty impressed with the thoroughness of it. It had a lot of different components with the active adult side. There's retail, like there's restaurants. There's a lot more green space he added. That's what this is all about.
You're saying there's going to be like a farmer's market, I think?
Yeah, there's going to be like a farmer's like that's the stuff people want when they live in these kind of communities.
Yeah.
So I thought that was great. And what I liked about it is how excited he was because these malls, like, I mean, they're kind of like dead zones, right? Have you ever been to a mall that's like been in the process of getting shut down before?
Yeah.
If you go to the Plymouth Meeting Mall, it is depressing. Like it is one of the worst places to go. There's a Dick's there I have to go to for sporting goods and stuff like that. But besides that, I mean, it's really depressing. So he's coming in. They added a lot of green space. They had a hearing, I guess it was last night, and it was a July Planning Commission meeting at West Whiteland Township. They wanted more open space. And this week, the Planning Commission is going to see that. So it's a 75-acre property, which is bananas large, and it's like right on the top of the agenda. This is tonight. That's why he couldn't come on the show. And he said it's going to be freaking spectacular. Talk about enthusiastic. I love that. That's great. The updated plans are going to include a main street through the center of the property that could close cars to accommodate the farmers markets. You know, I imagine like dining under the stars and media and that sort of stuff. There's an activity terrace for a stage for musical performances.
Nice.
They have one of those in what's the name of the park? It's right off 252. I had to run a couple cross country meets there. It's right in Marble Newtown. A grass median on the main street is going to add green space. Places for like frisbee and you know, just like a park in general. I mean, you look at this here; it's pretty impressive. So. Do you like the changes to the plan? What's your take on this, Sarah? Because I think this is all good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's encouraging here is if like I guess who was the one that said they need to add more green space, like the
township and the resident,
the community,
the neighbors,
the neighbors. Yeah. So that was their input, and if he was able to then come back and make that work with the space. And everybody's happy. That's a win.
I agree. And if I haven't been I drive through Exton all the time. When you really look at it, that area has come such a long way. When they used to have like the Kmart there and the old Exton Square Mall before they expanded it back in, I guess it was like 2000 or 99 or something like that. And he calls the new Central Street in there the property's living room, which I think is great because. If you look at some of the development around King of Prussia, which is similar, they don't really have a lot of green space around there. Like we've sold properties there. I mean, you're kind of like on the main street and that's it. But there's not that sort of green space there. Now, King of Prussia is different than Exton. It's not in Chester County. It's a little bit of a different vibe. And I think that's going to be important to make it feel like part of Chester County because Chester County is just a little more spread out and a little more open.
Right. Like the King of Prussia one, like there's some green space, but not like I feel like there's a little bit, but not nearly as like expansive at all as what you've got going on here.
Yeah. So I think this is going to be good. I hope that it gets approved. I mean, this guy, he's jumping through a lot of hoops. Like he showed us the plans and everything, and we're hoping to have him on the show here in the next couple weeks. And there was a lot of feedback. They reduced the number of townhomes in the master plan by 73 because people were concerned about density. I mean, he's really gone well above and beyond here what the township's asking. Now, obviously, he's trying to get it approved. He's still got Boscov's department store there. There's going to be 381 apartments, 172 townhomes, 165 active adult residential units, and there's going to be 167,000 square feet of retail and commercial space. 121,000 for fitness and entertainment, and 48,000 for office space. So this sounds like could be a real big hub here, right in West Whiteland Township, which is really exciting.
Yeah. Hopefully everything gets approved.
Yeah, That's not fun going to. My dad has done many approval zoning meetings with all the folks that he's going through. It's not been fun. So, all right. So we got one new listing coming to the market this week, and typically, that's kind of what happens in the month of August. So it's a condo that's on Montgomery Avenue. It's 1334 Montgomery Avenue in Narberth. It's unit G3, and this property is a 2-bed, 2-bath. It's going to be priced at $265,000. The windows open right up to Montgomery Avenue. It's right at the corner of Montgomery Avenue and Gypsy. All renovated, new kitchen, new bathroom, great spot, great. I mean, you're getting in the Lower Merion for under $275,000 for 2 bedrooms. I mean, that's a big win if you ask me, because there's a lot of ways to buy properties for $265,000 along the main line.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. That's all we got this week, ladies and fellas. So you want to follow Sarah? She's at Ty Time. You can follow me at TomToole3RD. And make sure to do us a favor, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. And if you want to schedule a call with our team about maybe buying one of these townhomes at the Exton Square Mall, understanding the impacts of the Lincoln Financial Field News, or taking advantage of this moment in time in the summer where the market is kind of opening up a little bit and you want to get ready for the fall, click on the link, schedule a call with Sarah. She'll take care of all your real estate needs. We'll catch you next week on Toole Time Real Estate Radio on WWDB 860 AM.
All right.